Hi, this is MeetingGround, and our team members consist of Ben Chamba, Kimberly Zhu, Tal Bachar, and our mentor is Michael Lorton. So the problem that inspired MeetingGround is the following. There's lots of effort in planning and managing your calendar for appointments with multiple customers, with all your coworkers, and all the different meetings you'll have in a day. It gets even more complicated when you have to slot in emergency bookings, reschedule someone on short notice, or handle no-shows. There are currently existing scheduling apps like Calendly and You Can Book Me, but all of these have a paywall blocking the most useful features of their app. So our solution, MeetingGround. MeetingGround is an open source web app for easy scheduling. The host can create a link to invite guests, and then the guests can use the host's links without having to log into MeetingGround to sign up for a time slot of their choice. We have integration with Google Calendar for easy scheduling, and the best part is there's no payments necessary to use our platform. So our team, first off, we have Ben Chamba. He worked on the back end along with the connection from the back end to the front end, as well as the Google API and OAuth. I'm Kimberly Zhu. I worked on the front end along with connection with the back end. So Ben and I worked together to connect the front end with the back end. And we also both use the Google API to handle calendar invite requests and also querying the calendar for the slots that the host is busy for. Tal Bachar worked mostly on the back end, used GraphQL and was able to connect the MongoDB database to our back end. Our tech. So this is the tech stack that we use. There's lots of tech stacks to choose from, but we use this based on the recommendation per our mentor. First off, we used React for the front end. We used TypeScript for both the front end and the back end code. We used GraphQL on the back end for the handling queries, and then Apollo Client for querying from the front end to the back end. We also use MongoDB to store our data in the database, and we use Yarn for package management, and Google API along with the Google Calendar API specifically to integrate the Google Calendar. And we also used OAuth to get the user consent. So over here we have the architecture and the main flow of our app. So first off, when a user signs in, this is the front page that they see. So this is the page they see before they sign in. This is basically going to represent our client. When they sign in, an auth request is going to be sent to the Google OAuth server on the Google API server, and then an OAuth request is triggered for the user. A prompt is displayed for the user to accept the calendar access and email / profile information access. And then if they do accept it, the OAuth 2 returns an auth code to our client. On the client side, then we send a request to the server, and specifically we're sending the auth code to the Express GraphQL backend server. And then the backend server is going to use that auth code to get a refresh token from the Google API server, and then the Google API server sends that refresh token back to the Express GraphQL backend server, and we store that in the MongoDB. So in this way, we can save which refresh token is used for which host, so that we can access their calendars even when they're offline. So then for the next two steps, next two flows mainly, is the first one is going to be when we query the Google API for the host's availabilities or here unavailabilities. So in the client side, whenever the user clicks on a specific link generated by the host, first we're going to go into the Express GraphQL backend server and see if the link exists or not and which host is associated with that link. So we're going to go look in the MongoDB to see whether the link exists or not, and then we're going to see if we're going to get the host information for that specific link within the Mongo database. Then using the host information, we can get the refresh token. We use the host's refresh token to get an access token from Google API server, and then we use the access token to get calendar access and information like the events that the user has on their calendar. So this information is going to be sent back from the Google API server to our Express GraphQL backend server, which sends it back to our client side, which handles the displaying and formatting of the dates, and also like handling specific date ranges and stuff like that. The next flow is going to be for when the user submits the information and is going to actually schedule the event. So similar to before, we're going to go look using the GraphQL backend server and then MongoDB. We're going to see which host was the link associated with. Then we're going to get the refresh token and the access token from the Google API server. And then we're going to use the access token to actually send the invite on behalf of the host to both the guest and the host. And then the request is going to send back whether it was successful or not, and then we're going to display a confirmation or not page on the client side. And so then after this whole process happens, both the host and guest Google calendars should have the invites of the specific meeting slot that the guest chose. So this is the architecture continued. Specifically, this is for the front end side of our app. So for the front end side, we have this connect.tsx file. This file handles the login with OAuth and Google API. It's the file that's going to prompt the user for their permissions and whether they accept it or not. On the home.tsx page, this page is only going to be shown if the user is logged in, and this contains the engines for the host to generate their links. And so specifically, we have the schedule engine, which is one link card, and this specific link card is going to display how long the meeting is, and then we're going to generate links on behalf of how long the meeting is and store in the database accordingly. So this makes it really easy to scale up to customized meetings. So right now we have 15-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute meeting slots, but if we wanted to make it more customizable, we can just add another schedule engine based on like a 45-minute meeting slot or a 1.5-hour meeting slot. Next, we have the sign up page, and this page is going to handle the meeting time selection on behalf of the guest, and also processing the time slot exclusion on the calendars displayed to the guest by the date pickers. So this is the page where the guest is going to be able to see a calendar and select the date, and then based on the date they select, they can see the different time ranges that are available for that date. So to handle the specific time ranges that are available, this time slot exclusion stuff, the front end is going to query the back end and get that information and then process it on the front end side. So how the back end gives it back is like a start and end time. So it could be like 1:30 to 2:15. But when you're displaying it, you need to display every 15-minute chunk. So you need to display 1:30, 1:45, 2 o'clock, and so on and so forth. And so that's all handled on the front end side. And so after the meeting time selection is selected by the user, this information is going to be passed on through props to the submit info page. And then on this submit info page, the guest is going to submit their information, so their first name, last name, email, to confirm their selection. And then this information is going to be given to the backend, and the backend is going to send out the Google Calendar invite based on the information given and confirm whether it's a success or not. And so after that happens, we're going to display the confirmation page if the meeting invite was a success. And also on the confirmation page, we have a link to sign up for the new guests to use MeetingGround, so hopefully we can get more users that way. And last but not least, we have this 404 page, and that's just going to be the error page displayed for any invalid URLs or routes. So this is the backend side of our application. So on the backend side, there's three main files. First off, we have the schema file, and this establishes all the GraphQL schemas we have, and it establishes any queries we're going to use for the front end side and any mutations similarly. So you can see the host schema we have here. We have the first name, last name, and email of the host stored along with its refresh token, because remember, this refresh token is going to be used on behalf of the host so that we can get the host's availabilities, and we can also send out invites on behalf of the host even when the host is offline. For this link, whenever a new link is generated by any host, we're going to store the host ID, whoever generated this specific link. We're going to store the specific URL and the duration of the purpose of the link, so whether it was for a 15-minute meeting, a 30-minute meeting, a 60-minute meeting, and whether the link has been used or not, because in our case specifically, we want one-time use links. So if it's been used, then we don't want the user or any other guest to be able to use that link to sign up again. Then we have the invite.ts file, and this file is going to be sending out the Google Calendar invite with the refresh token that we get from the Mongo database and any input we get from the front end form that's going to be sent over. Then we have slotfind.ts, and this is going to query the Google API for time slots that the user is unavailable, and this unavailable start and end times are going to be sent to the front end, which is going to process how it's going to be displayed on the sign up form. So this is our backend. Our code can be found at this link, github.com/pocketcoders/meetingground, and we can show a short demo of our app. Account. And you can see I'm prompted for the calendar access. So I'm going to click allow, and now I'm on the main page, and it says welcome Kimberly Zoo as my profile, and you can see I have some events down here on the calendar. So now let's continue to MeetingGround home. So on the home page, you can generate one-time sign-up links for your guests to schedule a meeting. After clicking generate, then I can copy and send a link to my guest. So I'm going to click a 15-minute link to generate. So you can see a unique link here is created. I can also generate like links for 30-minute links, and they're all going to be unique. I'm going to click copy, and it says link copy to clipboard, and I'm going to paste it to go to the link. Before I do, I'm going to sign out, and I'm going to paste it there. So you can see I can access this without having signed in. So because it's not hosted, I'm going to need to use localhost. And now I'm on the sign up page as a guest. And on the sign up page, I can sign up for my 15-minute meeting because this is a link for a 15-minute meeting. I can choose my date. If I don't choose the date, I get an error alert. So I'm going to choose my date. On this day, you can see that for these times, I'm not available. And as you can see on my calendar over here for myself, which I created the account with, I have some events during that time. So that's why it's blocked out. It's synced to your calendar. Okay, so I'm going to schedule a meeting at August 1st, 1 p.m. And over here, it says your scheduled date is this, and I'm going to input my information. And because I'm acting as the guest for MeetingGround, I'm going to use the MeetingGround information. I'm going to submit my information, and it says your meeting has been confirmed. So if I go into my calendar, you will see that this meeting, you just saw that it just popped up, MeetingGround meeting with Kimberly. And on the MeetingGround side, this meeting just popped up as well. So after you press submit, both calendars are sent invites, and your calendars will be synced. Another thing is that since these are one-time sign-up links, if I try to go back and reuse the link, it will give me an error saying, sorry, the link has been used. So there you go, that's MeetingGround. Thank you very much. So some lessons we learned along the way as we were working on our project. So first off, we learned how to communicate and work on coding in a group. We used Git to make sure we had different versions and we can work on different branches at the same time. And we also used like Microsoft Live Share on Visual Studios to be able to code together. And it was really important that we were communicating between the front end, the back end, and the database, and using the queries so that everyone knew what they were doing and how each side would be communicating with each other. The tech stack was a big challenge. None of us really had any experience with this specific tech stack. And so we started off with watching, a few tutorial videos provided by our mentor, and we were able to go from there and build this app by ourselves. We also were able to use APIs. So the good thing is that there's a lot of good APIs out there that helped us with what we wanted to do for our program. But the problem was that most of the APIs were not in TypeScript, so we had to do a lot of translation and searching through translating our code to TypeScript. Also, we learned the architecture of a web app, so we learned how things are connected between the server side to the client side and how to communicate between them and what information should be handled by the server. So for example, all the token stuff, all the inviting calendar, all the querying for slots, that should be handled on the server side because we don't want the browser or anybody to see that on the front end side for security reasons, and how to communicate between the server and the client. And last but not least, testing and debugging code. Testing is a huge part of this app, and as we were testing, whenever we created a new feature, we wanted to test it and see how we could break it and then make sure we handle those bugs that were in the breaking. And then also debugging the code was a huge part. We spent many hours writing code, but then the majority of the time was actually spent debugging the code that we wrote. So for future work, we had limited time with this app so far, but in the future, as we continue this project, here are some future expansions we would like to involve. So we would like to have customized time slots. Right now, as I mentioned, we only have 15-minute, 30-minute, and 60-minute time slots, and so we want the user to be able to add any additional time cards that they want, like 45-minute times, 1.5 hour times that they want, and send those meeting links out accordingly. And similarly, we also want to select general availabilities inside the app. So right now, all the information of the availabilities is taken directly from the Google Calendar, but we want to have the user be able to select just general availabilities like 9 to 5 every day inside our app, so they don't have to block out every time that they're not available on Google Calendar. We also want to add on multi-use links for recurring signups. So right now we have one-time use links, which is important for anything that the host only wants one person to sign up for, or they only want them to sign up for one meeting. But we also want to add on the ability for the host to send out multi-use links for either multiple people to sign up the link for, or for the person to sign up for recurring slots. And we also want to display a log of events scheduled through MeetingGround, so the host can go on their page and see like what events they have that are coming up through MeetingGround. So contact information. Here's the contact information of everyone on the team. For Ben Chamba, his email is tbanaja@gmail.com. His LinkedIn is banaja-chamba. Kimberly Zhu, her email is kpzhu@berkeley.edu. The LinkedIn is Kimberly Zhu. And for Tal Bachar, the email is tal@bachar.co.il, which is really cool. He has his own domain. And the LinkedIn is talbachar8. So thank you very much.